Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. You got mail from me, Bella, and this week we are discussing my return to the 9 to 5 because I've been keeping a little secret from you. Just a little secret because I felt like I didn't want to talk about it until it was like actually here, and it was such a far way ahead that I was like, okay, we're just not gonna. I just wanted to really enjoy the summer that I was having, but I've gone back to the 9 to 5. I've less hospitality, but in a different way to how I'll be doing it before. I've gone back doing the same hours that I was doing at the cafe. And so, time wise and everything, it's all the exact same. It's just a different type of job. And it's a really exciting step. It's a really, really exciting step. I'm excited to, try something in my field of work again because I think there definitely was a feeling when, I left my last job and I was really unhappy and miserable. And I thought, what am I going to do with my life? And I wasn't getting any jobs and it just felt really all just quite sad and low. And I just thought, you know what? I just don't even want to be in the field that I've trained to be in anymore because the job market is so terrible. But it's nice to be able to give it another chance because like my dad gave me some very sage like advice and was like, if every single person who hated their first job never went on to get a second job, where would we be? And it made me realize like, oh, actually, maybe that was just the job. Maybe that's not what the career could be. Maybe that was just a bad first job, but what could happen could be really great. And so I'm going back to the 9 to 5 and we're going to chat about it. But first, we're going to talk about a life update because I'm not going to lie, since we last spoke, this week has been a getting ready to week. By the time you watch this, I'll have done my first week. So this week before I begin has been all about prepping my life to make the next chapter of my life easier. And I think it's been really I've been so lucky to be able to have 3 weeks off and then this week here of me just settling into back being at home. And I'm really grateful for that because it's meant that I've done lots of jobs that I've been putting off, severely putting off, such as our flat was chaos, okay? All of our shoes were stacked in cardboard boxes because we kept saying we'll just wait to get a chest of drawers and we'll wait to get a shoe rack because we were saving for the holiday. And I just reached a point where I was like, this is actual chaos and it's making me feel very anxious in the flat because there's just stuff everywhere. And it's hard to keep it clean and tidy. This is boring, but also not boring. So I went and got loads of plastic boxes, have stored everything neatly. It's looking much more presentable. And now I feel like the flat is finally feels settled. I've changed my doctor's appointment. I arranged a doctor's appointment. I sorted out my bills. I've cleaned the flat. I've sorted out all of my clothes. So summer wardrobe has been put away. Honestly, it's been great. Got a haircut, got my nails off. I didn't know how bad acrylic was for your nails. The nail lady was really mad at me because she was like, your nails are so weak now, never get acrylic, they've ruined your nails. And I thought, great, that's really fun to know. So now, because I didn't know this, Builder's not just good for your nails because it keeps them strong, but it's also a lot easier to get off, and that's why it's also really good for your nails. But I think I'm just going to give it all a break because I just think if I can make my natural nails grow out and I can just put normal nail polish on them, I'll save so much money. Because for a while, I really, really wanted to have long, beautiful gel nails, but they're just so bad for my nails. My nails aren't strong enough for them, and I wish they were. I wish my nails didn't break every single time, but one's already split. And so if I just don't fiddle with them and let them grow, then we could be in a good position in a month, and then I'll be painting them, and then they'll feel strong again. And so, yeah, this is my current project. Save £50 a month, because 50 quid a lot is that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. In a year, that's £600. I don't want to spend £600. It doesn't give me that much joy, you know? So I think we're going to leave it. We're going to not try and lean into it, and we're just going to let my natural nails grow out, and I'll just paint them, and it'll be fine. Because she filed them lovely, can't lie. And maybe I just treat myself to a manicure every other month to get them in nice shape, you know? Or I just learn to do it myself. But it's been one of those weeks where I've just really been just trying to, those things you've had on your to-do list for months. I've just been actually trying to get them done and box them off because I feel weirdly, it kind of all links together, and I'm going to talk about this in next week's podcast episode. I don't want to go too much into it, but I listened to a podcast, and the big part of the podcast was, if you don't know what to pursue yourself and pursue excellence in every single thing that you do. And it's made me think a lot about not doing a half-assed job, doing everything and just doing it properly. Because I think because of my ADHD and me as a person, I am juggling a lot of plates. There's a lot of different things going on, and I tend to jump between things without finishing an actual task and finishing it properly. By not finishing a job properly, it means that things tend to drag on and things overlap and I forget things. And so trying to actually start and finish a task is my current hyperfixation. And I feel a lot more on top of everything in my life. Like I used all the boxes and I knew I needed two more. So yesterday I just went out and got them, and now that job is finished. I don't have to do any more tidying. Edited the podcast this morning, and then I scheduled it and set it all up. So that's going on Sunday now. I don't have to sort that anymore. And it's all little things like this that I would actually just be leaving beforehand. I wouldn't be touching them, and I'd just be like, okay, podcast edited. I'll sort that Sunday morning. And then I'd have to set an alarm for 7 a.m. to wake up on my day off. It just all didn't really work. And so actually finishing things to a standard where I'm like, this is good. There's nothing that I haven't done there. It becomes a habit. And I think me trying to become a tidier person and make all of these things a habit and make tidying a habit is something that I'm really trying to implement. Because when the flat is clean and nice, I feel so much happier. I feel so much better in every single thing that I'm doing. But when the flat isn't clean and nice, it just makes me feel horrible. I just feel like it's just not nice to be in and I don't want to hang out in it because it's like it's a big flat, but it's not crazy big. That makes it feel more claustrophobic. And so this has been a good week to get everything sorted. The weather's been shocking. It's miserable and I've really had the holiday blues coming back. But being able to have this week to settle in before I start work again has made like the holiday blues fade and now I'm starting up. And you know what? I'm excited. It feels like this is the perfect time for something like this to happen. Like I feel like it's September and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see how all of this goes. I'm ready for this next chapter. And I've had such a lovely time off. You know, I haven't been back in this type of job since February. And so I've really, really had a massive break from it. And I feel so much better for it. And I think my mindset towards this job has really changed. And so if you're about to start a new job, if you're job hunting, if you're looking at what job you're going to do and feeling a little bit lost, then this episode is for you because I have been in that place and was in that place. And now I've kind of come at the end of it and I want to tell you everything that I've learned. And if you know someone in this position, then make sure you send them this episode because I feel like it's going to be one of those episodes that is actually really helpful because it's the episode I wish I could have had a year ago. So, onto the content part of this week's podcast. And this week, this has pushed me too far forward. And this week we are discussing me returning to the 9 to 5, the job market, the job industry, and, work itself. Because I think a lot of us are in our 20s who listen to the podcast. Also, to be honest, I think this applies in any age you are because I think the job market is really hard. I have found this year really hard. And I think there was a podcast that I recorded, I want to say it was in April time. Basically, where do I even begin? I applied for a job. You know what? We're going to begin at the start. I'm going to take you through the entire journey because it's been a journey and I've had to keep so quiet about it because I didn't, I felt like there were so many other things going on and this job isn't really going to change a type of, I'm not all of a sudden going to become a corporate type of account. That's not the vibe. But I think the job market is something we all are really struggling with. And so I want to share my journey with it over the past year because I think it can be really helpful to see how things can weirdly sometimes just work out, even when you really don't expect them to. So, as you all know, have I put some there? Yeah. I applied for a job, I left my old job in February and I had a job interview lined up and it went really well, but I didn't get the job. And I was like, it's okay, it's all right, I'm not too sad about it, it's fine. Applied for so many jobs, didn't get anywhere with them. Then I got an interview at another job and I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is the perfect job for me. Got to the final interview and I didn't get the job. And in both of these jobs, they were like, you've done really well. You are our first, you're the reserve. And I thought, great. And with the first job, they kept asking me if I wanted to be kept on the reserve list. And I kept saying yes, because I hadn't found anything. And by the time I didn't get the last job, I thought, you know what? I just need a job now. It's been 3 months of nearly being unemployed. I don't have enough savings to do this for any longer. I think I had 2 months of, I think I had 3 months of savings, but 2 months of real savings. And I always said by the third month, I'll get any job until I find the job. Because honestly, I was so burnt out after my last job, I needed 2 weeks just to recover. So that only left me then 6 weeks of actually properly searching for it. And all of this time, I was trying to build up my content creation and my different social media channels. And I was trying to build them and build them and build them so that they could become something. Because that is a side hustle that isn't really a side, I just really enjoy doing it. I find it more like a hobby, but I knew that could be something. And so I was trying to build all of these different things and nothing was really coming. And so that's when I said, you know what? I'm just going all in on content creation. That's going to be my thing. I'm going to go all in on content creation. I'm going to get a job in a cafe and I'm going to try that out for a bit because everything I've done in my life has been very serious and very logical and well thought out. And I think I was just a bit done with it all. I don't think I wanted to apply for any more jobs. And I think the whole applying for jobs and not getting them for 3 months, like, is quite demoralizing, demotivating, just makes you think, like, well, when is, like, this isn't working out. And I think I did start to get quite panicked. Like, I'll be honest, I did start to get quite panicked. And I was like, I'm just not getting anything. And maybe me leaving my old job was the wrong decision. There was moments of doubt, but deep down I knew me leaving that wasn't really the wrong decision because I wasn't happy and I didn't like the trajectory I was going on. And so it all just kind of felt like wasted time. And I would rather be trying to find something that made me happy than stuck in something that doesn't make me happy, because job hunting takes time. Like, job hunting takes a while. And so, stuck at it, had the hospitality job, and then I got a call. They were like, hi, are you still looking for a job role? And I just thought it was one of those like classic like recruiter email like calls where it's like, yes, still looking for a job, keep me on the reserve list, because I'd had a few of them because I'd been on it for so long. And it turns out I was the first reserve from the job. And because I was the first reserve, it then meant that, and because I was the first reserve for the job, it meant that I could just walk straight into it without having to interview or apply or anything. And I tell you, I was shocked. I was beyond shocked. I was gobsmacked. Because all this time I'd been thinking that I was going to leave this industry that I trained for because I just couldn't find something that made me happy in it. There was no jobs going. And then all of a sudden I'd been manifesting it very hard. And there's certain like affirmations that I feel like I say that kind of make this one feel a bit too like it's weirdly accurate. And I'd been focusing in on it and be like, I just had this feeling, I was like, this is just going to work out, but I don't know how. And then when I got offered that job that I could just literally walk into, I thought, this is the craziest opportunity. And I felt like I'd said to everyone who like follows me on social media, like I was doing this. And then I was about to turn around and be like, oh, actually, I'm going to do something else as well as this. But then I realized it's actually no different. It's the exact same number of hours that I was working at the cafe that I'll be working my new job. So it's just a change of how I use those hours. And I thought, you know what, I've got to give this a go. Because like I said at the start, if everyone who didn't like their first job quit the industry that they trained for, where would the world be? You know? And again, this podcast, right, the podcast that I listened to was the Mel Robbins podcast. And the lady who was on it, who honestly, the most brilliant speaker, let me find it because on it, it was really good. Okay, it's Emma Grades. It's the podcast titled, If You Only Listen to One Podcast a Day, Make It This One. It's brilliant. I was listening to that earlier on. We're not going to discuss. And there was a really brilliant part of the podcast where she said she's only been in a job that she loves, she's now in her 30s, for the last 2 or 3 years. Every other job that she has done up until this point has had elements that she loved and elements that she didn't love, and she's just had to work through it to learn where she really wants to go. And it just made me think so much about how I'd been I think I really, really, really wanted to enjoy my first one. I wanted it all to be easy and quite like this beautiful textbook story of like, she got her first job and stayed in it for ages and got promoted and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like how I was obsessed with the idea of like my first boyfriend being my husband. I think I like the narratives of things sometimes. And I don't know why. I just think I like the idea of it like, oh, it just sounds so good and blah, blah. And then actually it doesn't matter. And I think this has been the great thing about growing up is realizing like sometimes I need to check for things that I think are actually brilliant ideas because where's the logic? But also it's that whatever thing you're in, it's reassuring and comforting to know. They use the rule of thirds, and I think that's a brilliant way to think about going into new things. A third of your time, you're going to love it. You're going to think it's the best thing ever. You're going to think it's brilliant. A third of the time, you're going to think it's okay. You could give or take it, but, you know, it is what it is. And a third of the time, you're going to absolutely hate it. And that's okay. All of those 3 things being involved in either your job, and this applies to many things like your job, your relationships, the place you live, the hobbies you do, the side, like, you know, I think we have an expectation to love absolutely everything about something. We think we have to. When we don't love absolutely everything about something, we think we failed. We think we're not doing good enough. We think that something is wrong with the thing and we think we have to change. But the truth is that, you know, I like to think of it. So if you imagine it's like a pie chart and each thing is splitting into thirds. And each new experience should gradually increase the part of things that you're really enjoying, and it should be decreasing the things that you're really hating, because you're learning more about yourself. You're learning more about where you want to go. You're learning more about who you want to be. And so you start to know, you realize you actually really like doing like ABC at work, but you don't like doing D&E. And so you ask your boss, can I do a bit more of this and a bit less of this? And then you start to enjoy your job more, and the pie chart starts to look a little bit more like you have more things that you love, same things that you find okay, and less things that you hate. And I think as we get older and older and older, this pie chart shifts until it's covered with things that we love, and the things that we don't love are such a minor portion of our lives. But the thing that is important is that takes time, you know, because you have to learn those lessons. You have to learn what those things could be. You have to learn that the things you want to do in life, what are they? How do they make you happy? Why do they make you happy? How can you incorporate more of that into your world? And I think that is the thing that I'm really trying to realize. Like, this life that I want to create, this big and brilliant and exciting and, you know, great life, it's going to take time to work out what is included in that. It's not going to happen all at once. It's not going to happen straight away. It's going to take time to work out what that life could look like. And that is something that I think I really thought I'd hit 20 and I'd just be sprinting towards this dream life. I'd have it by the time I was 23 and I'd just get to enjoy it. But that's not really how it goes. You have to give yourself time to work out what you want your life to be like. And I think this is what this year has really taught me. Because, you know, I think when I was at my old job, I remember hearing people going to hospitality and just thinking like, the dream scenario. And I think whatever you're in, the grass is always greener, because you can only comprehend the good things. You don't really think about the bad. Like, when you think about a restaurant, you don't think about the bad food. You only think about the good food, you know? And I think that tend to be what we focus on. We focus on the rose tinted glasses. And I think when I went there, that was the thing. I only focused on the good when I was going there. And then I got there and it was all good. But like every job, there's going to be things you don't enjoy about it. And it's that rule of thirds. And I think the brilliant thing about it was that I needed a non-serious job for a bit. Everything had always been so serious. I'd always gone, like, I'd done my internship, my master's, my job for 18 months. And all of a sudden I've been spat out at the end, kind of struggling to breathe, thinking, what is going on? Like, I'm not happy. And I don't want to cry. It's not emotional. I just think, like, I really wasn't happy. And it was a bit scary, because I thought, like, well, this life that I've chosen isn't making me happy, and I don't know how to get out of it. And I don't like where I'm going, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and I find it hard, and I'm finding this scary, and I just feel very lost. And I kind of wish I'd had that podcast to listen to. I don't want to talk about it too much, because, like, it's literally the topic of next week's podcast episode, but I felt really lost, and I just knew I had to get out, and I got myself out. And it's not that things were easier. They were easier. They were still hard. You know, money was a big stress. I was stressed a lot of the time. Like, the last 6 months have been like stressful, but it's been okay, because I think it's taught me so much about who I am, the life I want to lead. And you know, that kind of pie chart that I was discussing, it's taught me so much more about the things I want to have in my side of the good side of the pie chart. And being able to have more time and work out who I want to be and work out where all these things can go, different, amazing, incredible opportunities have happened. And I think that is something that this year has really taught me so much about. It's that I always wanted You've Got Mail and my social media channels and something to kind of get bigger and grow and become something in themselves. But because I was not in a good place, the things that I was creating weren't hitting. I don't know. I look back at it and I look back at what I was doing and I just think, like, what was she doing? That is, sometimes an old video pops up, I really cringe. We're not going to talk about it. But I think that feeling of cringe at your past self, I think that's a good thing, because, and I mean this in a, like, I'm not saying, hear me out. It shows that you've changed, and it shows that you've grown, and it shows you're in a better place now. And I don't cringe and hate, because I'm like, oh, I was just trying my best, but I would never produce something like that now. And I think that's something that I'm in such a happier state of mind, and that's really something that I'm going to take into this next chapter, because I think I have a tendency to let jobs and stress and wanting to do well overrule everything in my life. And I think it comes deep down for being a bit of a people pleaser, but I don't want to be. And I'm working on that. And I've worked on that a lot. And I think this year it's kind of really gone because I've done so many more things just for me. I've made decisions that don't really make sense to anyone but me. Leaving a job with nothing to go to, that was naive, probably a bit silly. Would I recommend it? No, absolutely not. I should have got the cafe job from the start, but you know, I did what I did and it all worked out okay. And I maybe had to do that to give myself a break. I think we don't know what we don't know. You can't spend your time thinking about how things could have gone. And I think being able to have time off this summer has allowed me to have this summer of like chill. And that has been beautiful. To have a summer where I didn't really care too much about what I was doing. I could make plans any weekend. I could just be as free as a bird and be in charge of my own time. I think was something that I needed to regroup. And I think there's been loads of different things that I've been working on this week to try and make sure that I have managed my life in a better way. It's silly things like getting on top of those jobs that have just been kind of hanging over me a little bit. Sorting out my flat out, throwing things away, decluttering, going on my phone less scrolling. All of these things have been really important in making my headspace feel calmer and better because I want to set off running. I want to really, really have a good fresh start. And I think a good fresh start is set up so much by the soil that you plant it in. And I know, like the soil that I'm in right now, it's really good. I've taken a lot of time to work on myself and work on how I think about things and how I process stress and how I manage stress and the lifestyle that I have. I've worked a lot on it. And so going into this next chapter, I feel a lot more on top of things. And I think that's really exciting. I think when I entered my first job, I literally had done my master's, traveled to Vietnam, and within 5 days I was starting a new role. And I didn't really know what I was doing. And I didn't think too much before I did things. I just did things and went with them. Whereas this time I'm so much more self-aware of how I'm feeling, of how things make me feel, and of how things should be. And I think that's important. Like, I think I know how things should be in my life. Like, I know how to organize myself. And I think that is something that feels so stupid to say out loud, but something I actually find that easy. I actually find it quite hard. And so giving myself time to get on top of that before the new job starts has been really important. But I think I want this really to be a message of hope for the job market because it's hard. It's hard finding a job. It's hard finding something that you want, and you're going to probably have to take jobs that you don't really want along the way. But every single job that we have teaches us something. I'm such a firm believer of that. My weight, like when I was working on Till for 3 months, it taught me how to get up early, how to kind of interact with so many different types of people, how to cope under like quite high time constraints without getting too stressed, and how to realize it's not that serious. So I think that was the thing that really was drilled, like I drilled into myself. If I'd find myself getting a bit stressed and there was a long line, I then had to give myself a proper talking to of like, Bella, if they have to wait 3 minutes for their coffee, or will they die? I was like, then I just realised I needed to get a grip a little bit, that it wasn't that serious and that everything was fine. And I think that's been something that is a good mindset to have going into anything new, because I think you need to be able to keep a calm head and keep perspective and know when something is worth stressing about and when something isn't worth stressing out. And as a chronic overthinker and over worrier, this isn't going to be easy, but I do think I've got a lot better at it. And so I'm going back to the 9 to 5. Very excited to see what it goes. But yeah, it's a change of routine, it's a change of working pattern, but it's something that I'm ready for, I feel like I was ready for that next chapter. I was ready to try something new, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. But anyway, on to the question part of this week's podcast episode. So the first question is, did you go to university? If yes, any advice for making friends? I did go to university. I went twice. So I did an undergraduate degree and then I did my master's, and I had a break between them both. I think my biggest advice for making friends is go to the socials, go to the clubs. You have to put yourself out there. You have to put yourself in situations where you're going to meet people. And also, when I sit next to someone, like we started chatting, we got on in our lectures, I'd be like, oh, do you want to get lunch together? And that helped me build up the friendships and build up friendships and build up friendships. And I think that was really helpful. And I think by going to different clubs and different societies and meeting different people, it's such a good way to build up a real network of people around you. And I think that's the case because then people invite you to a party or like some type of a gathering or things that they're doing with their friends, and you improve your network because you join them to your network, and it's all this like interlocking thing. Because I think your friends have friends who you're likely to get on with, because if they could be friends, you can probably be friends. I always think this. If my friend likes someone and I like my friend, the chances are I'm going to like their friend. There's normally going to be an overlap. And so go to the socials, go to the clubs, Don't be scared to put yourself out there and ask someone if they want to go and get lunch. That's what I would do all the time. And also know that everyone is struggling with it a bit too. You know, you go to university and you don't know anyone, and it's hard. It's really hard, and it's scary and it's nerve-wracking because you've not really been in that position before. And I think there is a tendency to want to really like push yourself and feel like you should be making loads of friends, and then the flip side of it, not want to make any friends because it makes you so anxious. But I think a middle ground is good. Know that it's okay still to have a bit of your alone time. It's okay just to chill out in your room if that's what's going to make you feel good. But don't be scared to take that first leap. Don't be scared to ask someone if they want to go and get a coffee between lectures. Don't be scared to just chat to the people around you about how the lecture went. You know, you don't have to have these like massive big conversations, but all of a sudden you start to see the same people over and over and over again. And I think friendships are built by repeatedly seeing the same types of people. I think that's why clubs and societies are really good and important. I'll be honest, I was too anxious to do any of them. And I think that's probably my biggest regret, is that I was too anxious really to go to any clubs or societies. But I wish I could go back and do that, because I think there's such a brilliant way to meet people and build your network and just know more people at university. So those would be my biggest tips of advice. The last question for this week's episode of the podcast: what is something that made you smile today? Something that made me smile is I just had a proper Something that's made me smile. Me and my boyfriend have started waking up earlier, and so we have coffee and breakfast together before like he goes to work and I go to work, and it's just been really nice. It's been nice to have slower mornings. It's been nice to have more time to spend with each other, and it's just been nice not going on my phone as much, because we literally used to wake up, have coffee in bed, and just both scroll, and we were like, this is really bad. This is really bad. And not doing that and actually like coming and having breakfast and chatting with each other, it's been really lovely. But I don't want to get too much into it because we're going to talk about it on next week's podcast episode. But I love you. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you after my first week. Mwah.